Howdy, this is Josh Beckner from the School for International Expedition Training, and today we're going to look at advanced rappel techniques, and we're going to focus on 4 different errors that are very common in the world of rappelling. These accidents are happening to novices and experts and highly seasoned mountain guides and everybody in between. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at here is the most common accident in rappelling, and this accounts for about 30% of the accidents that are happening out there every year. And this is rappelling off the ends of your rope. Luckily, the answer to this problem is very simple. We just tie a stopper knot in the end, and you just want to make sure that it's a knot that's not going to come undone. And I usually use the barrel knot, aka fisherman's knot. Make sure it's nice and snug with about 10 or 12 inches of tail here. So if everybody did default to using knots in the end of their ropes, we would definitely have far fewer accidents out there. However, a lot of people don't like to put knots in the end of their ropes because of the fact that when they throw their coils, they're afraid that their coils are going to be either stuck in cracks below, and the knot is going to get jammed in cracks below or around the corner where it's really hard to get to the knot and release the knot from whatever it's jammed in, or it gets stuck in bushes or trees. One solution to getting your stopper knot and the rope tangled up into stuff is put your stopper knot in as per usual, and then make some small butterfly coils like so. Coil it up. I usually do 2 wraps and through, so 2 and through, and then just seal it off with a bite. And now you have a nice coil that you can take and throw exactly where you want it. And notice I already have most of my rope down to where I think the next anchor is that I'm rappelling to, or close to the ground. And now I can be more accurate with my alpine bomb. Rope! Okay, so another solution to keep your ends that have knots in them from blowing away and getting stuck into cracks and trees and bushes is to make saddlebags. And you start with the end, keep the knot in there, and you just basically make butterfly coils like so. And the key here is that you make each subsequent bite a little bit smaller than the last one. So you start big and make it smaller and smaller as you go. And I usually do this with the last third of the rope, or the last half of the rope, so you don't have too much in there. That's about half of the rope. And then make sure you keep the strand that you're going to need to pull out of the coil out in front like that. And then take an extended draw and just wrap it up. Usually about 3 wraps. Keeps it from dangling too low. And now, as I'm rappelling down, rope should just feed right out of this as I go, as long as I stacked it in there from long to short. Okay, so the second most common cause for rappel accidents is anchor failure. And this accounts for roughly 25% of the accidents that are happening out there. And basically talking about all sorts of rappel anchors is a bit out of the scope of this video, but really the key is that you're rappelling off things that are unquestionably strong, and when in doubt, just back it up and try to never rappel off a single piece, like a single piton or a single nut. Go ahead and back those up whenever you can. The third most common reason for rappel accidents, and this accounts for about 20% of the accidents that are happening out there, is inadequate rappel backup. So if you are just simply rappelling with your rappel device threaded like this, and you're rappelling down and you let go then there's nothing else to back you up. And a lot of people draw the analogy of this being akin to soloing. So if you are on your way down and for any reason you let go, then that's potentially it. So one of the best ways to keep yourself backed up on rappel is by creating an extended rappel device and then putting on a third hand backup, which is just a friction hitch below the rappel device. And with this system, you also have a tether in the system that you can use as well. Okay, so there's all sorts of different ways that you can extend your belay device and put on a third hand. I'll just cover one of them here. The key concept that you understand is that your belay device is plenty far away from your third hand so that your third hand cannot contact the belay device. So what I do here is just pinch these 4 strands together and make an overhand knot basically right in the middle of my tether, and then that's where my rappel device goes. And then my third hand is just going to be an auto block friction hitch. I have 5mm cord here, and to test this I just put this up high and make sure that all my weight is on this and it's holding my weight and there's slack in the rest of the system. Double check that it's locked, double check that my belay device is locked, and then weight test the whole system. Make sure there's slack in my tether up here. Unclip this tether. I can clip it back to my belay loop and I'm ready to rappel. Okay, so the whole reason that we extend the rappel device away from the third hand and avoid this kind of old school method of putting the third hand on the leg loop like this is because the third hand is too close to the belay device, and this system could fail if I just lift up this leg. As soon as the third hand touches the belay device, you could have a failure. So this is not a foolproof and generally not a recommended system, though it's better than no backup at all. Okay, so another way to set up your extended rappel is by using what's called a locking draw, and a lot of people carry these on their harness anyway. So deploying it into this type of scenario works great. You just want to make sure, again, that your third hand is not going to be even close to touching your rappel device. So the nice thing about this is that it keeps you from having to put a knot into your tether, which can be really difficult to get out after your rappel. So one thing to keep in mind here is that all of these demos were done with a Dyneema sling, and it's really important to keep in mind that these Dyneema slings do not absorb any energy if you shock load them. So we use these Dyneema slings a lot alpine climbing because they're so light and don't absorb water, and a handful of other reasons. However, we always want to be careful that we do not get up above the anchor. Our waist never goes up above the anchor, and then we fall down onto it and shock load this very static system. Okay, another solution for backing up rappels is using the firefighter's belay method, and basically this just requires one person down on the ground or at the anchors down below the rappeller, and they simply just hold the 2 strands, the 2 rappel strands in their hand, and they just pull tension if the rappeller above loses control. This essentially stops the rappeller. It's just like if they were pulling hard with their 2 hands below their belay device. So the fourth most common reason for rappel accidents is inadequate tethers. And we don't know exactly what percentage of the accidents are attributed to this, but it's somewhere around 10 to 15%. Basically, what people are doing is not having the rappel system set up correctly, and they lean back into it without a tether. And if something goes wrong with the rappel system, then you have an accident. If you have a tether in the system, especially a tether that allows you to have some slack, then you can weight test the system that you're about to commit your life to. In this case, the system is obviously a rappel system, and make sure that everything is working. Now with slack in my system here, I can do a quick little mini rappel, verify that my system works, and then unclip my tether and continue on. Okay, so this is a fairly common accident that keeps occurring every year or two. People load their rappel device incorrectly, in this case with just a single strand, and then they go and lean back into it and start to rappel, and one bite pops out of the device, and since this is the only strand that's still being secured, this other strand is going to pull through the anchor and the entire system fails. Now if you have a tether here, this is going to completely prevent the accident. Okay, so all together, with people rappelling off the ends of their ropes, rappel anchor failure, people not having adequate backups on their rappel systems, and people not tethering correctly, that accounts for about 85 to 90% of the accidents that have happened since 2000. So hopefully with good technique, you guys can avoid these accidents and climb safe out there.